20 years ago, a seed was planted and cared for. We painstakingly nurtured it and weathered it against adversity until one day it blossomed and the fruits of our labor began to show. Today, millions have learned, shared, and been inspired by what our community has produced. We proudly serve 21 million users from 204 countries in 2019. For our 85,000 technical articles, code samples, and videos, our 450,000 forum questions, and our highly anticipated conferences and events featuring keynote panels, live streams, and industry experts and influencers. We recognize and reward members for their dedication to the community. Through content contributions and mentorships, we ranked number 2,620 in the world with a reach of millions across our social media channels. Thanks to you, our global community of software and data developers grows stronger each day. For more information, visit us at csharpcorner.com.
Good morning and welcome to the Growth Mindset Show. My name is Mahesh Chand. I'm your host today. If you are joining us first time, welcome to the show. If you are our frequent visitor, welcome back to the show. As you may know, some of you may already know, this show is every Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm here in Philadelphia. It's a nice sunny day today, even a little bit cold, but it's very nice, bright, sunny. Um, Things are getting better a little bit in the US now. Hopefully, COVID cases are still there. We still have, tons of deaths. Believe almost 4,000 people are still dying every day. Uh, but the cases is kind of slowing down now. Hopefully, the vaccination start and we'll get better. I hope all of you guys who are watching, guys and girls, everybody who's watching the show, hopefully everybody's safe. You're staying safe, and we're hoping things will get better from there. Here, like it's been a while. It's been a while. We've been stuck in um, this pandemic for a while now. So today we have exciting show. We are going to talk about some of the things about how to stay productive and also motivated during COVID times. And after COVID, if you're still working from home, I know a lot of companies here in the US, they are telling their employees they can work from home for a long time now. I think companies like Google, Microsoft, and all big companies, Facebook, they have already told their employees. I think during this 2021, I think almost everybody can work from home. So this work from home culture is kind of new thing. And when working from home, sometimes it's important, keep yourself motivated, keep yourself, um, how do you, get to the work? How do you get ready? So there are some of the tips I will share today in this show in first 10 minutes. Um, in the second half, we have very special guest, Todd. We're going to talk about, talk about more what is his background, and then you can ask your questions. As we know, in the second half of the show, we take all of your questions. Questions can be about jobs, career, growth, anything in community, social work, or anything you have your question, anything about, feel free to ask your questions. No technical questions though. We're not going to answer here how to write code. Okay, all about growth mindset, all about learning, all about growing in life, in professional as well as personal. So welcome to the show, guys and girls. I see a lot of people joining us. I see familiar faces. Welcome to the show. Feel free to post all your comments in the comments box. If you're watching from, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching from, post comments. Let your friends know about the show. Anybody who can benefit from the show, share on your social media. I really appreciate when, people who are commenting and asking questions and sharing with their friends. End of the day, this show is all about you. This show is not a marketing. We don't promote things here, we don't sell things here. It's all about you, and how, based on my experience of these 25 years in the industry, working with the community, working with the companies, and learning from, background coming from very, humble village, and learning through the, all this time, and now running my own companies, and then growing through this path, all the things I learned, anything, so I can share, and hopefully I can help you. That's the goal. Goal is to get you better, help you on any questions. So any kind of questions you have, just ask. There's no question is bad question. So let's start with the quick tips. There's some of the tips I'm going to talk about in this show, and obviously this is my personal experience. Some may work for you, some may not work for you. And then in the second, after 10 minutes, we're going to ask our guest to join us, and then we're going to introduce guests, and then you got just go ahead and ask your questions, start posting your questions. So I have been working from home for a long time, like almost my whole life. And these are some of the tips I want to share. And when you're working from home, biggest thing you need to do is the tip number one is you have to have your mindset ready. You have to train your mind, and it takes some time to train your mind, but you have to train your mind that I'm here to work. Okay, I'm ready to work. When you wake up, you have to tell, okay, it's work time now. I'm also think like you are now in office. Okay, you got to forget that there is a TV, there's a kitchen, and some people have big houses, some have small, some have one apartment, some have one room, depends on your situation is. You have to kind of train your mind and tell your mind that, listen, this is work time now. And then, by the way, I have written a detailed article on this on C Sharp Corner as well, so you can go back after this and then read the article with more details. So in next 4 minutes, 5 minutes, I'm going to run these tips, and then you can go there. But then I want you to ask your questions. I want to share what's working for you. What do you do to get you, productive and motivated at work? What do you do? I would like to learn from you as well. So please share your tips, like what do you do that makes you get going on at your home while you're working during this COVID times. So tip number two is you have to prepare and get ready to work. You cannot say, oh, I'm home. You have to like just go, like do the regular routine, what you would do. Try to get a shower, put clothes on. That's important, is clothes on. A lot of us are working in pajamas now. I see a lot of pictures and funny things, and we are just working and wake up and working in pajamas. That's great, nothing wrong with it if you can work it. But if you are having hard time to concentrate or focus on work, try to go take a shower, put clothes on, so you're mentally, you're telling your body and your mind is getting ready to work. Okay, that's tip number two. um, Tip number three is assign a fixed area. If you have enough room, then always try to work in one area, at least in the morning. So now your brain is ready. Then when you're sitting in that area, it knows you are here to work. This is not messing around. It cannot be in the room where TV is there, where other distractions are there. Okay, you have to find a quiet area, which most of us do anyway. And then tip number four is you gotta have a fixed schedule. Try to schedule, because the way our body works is if once you have a schedule, then body start learning the behavior and habits, and then it's just getting ready. For example, many of you wake up early in the morning. Now body knows you wake up early in the morning, it automatically wakes up in the morning, right? You like are wide awake. So same thing with the work. You have to make a schedule and stick to it. You cannot do one day, okay, one day I'm not working, one day I'm working. So it has to have a schedule, so your body is kind of knows that. Next important thing I like is tip number fifth is like make a to-do list, and not just make in your head. Make a list on a paper, make a list on a board, whatever you have. And once you're done with the task, you got to check mark it. You have to feel like you just finished some work. Okay, and if the work is 1 hour work or 2 hour work, try to take a little break after that. You have to kind of pat on back, say, okay, good job, me myself, I did good job, let's take a break. Okay, and then go to the next task. So you have to kind of check that. More smaller tasks you check, better you will feel. Trust me. Don't make like a big one task like, oh, today I'm going to work on the website. Okay, that's just one task. No, make it look like today I'm going to create the layout of the page. I'm going to do the CSS. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And then start check marking those. Once you start check marking those items, you're going to feel like you have achieved something today. And that's a big thing for your brain to, tell it like, yes, I'm doing something good. And then, yeah, take frequent breaks. So don't just keep going sitting on chair in one position. Every time you do certain tasks, take a break. What I do is I drink about, in the morning, I wake up, I get ready and all. I drink about, three tea. And then every time, I work for an hour or so, then I take a break. I make a tea. When I'm making tea, I'm probably trying to stretch. I'm doing certain things, and I'm standing, obviously. And now I even got a standing desk here. It's not a desk, pretty much. I just put stuff on the desk. It's like a workaround, jugad, right? So anyway, so now we are done with our 10 minutes. I have more tips. Those tips are on C Sharp Corner, and we will share more tips here in this during the show as well. But have your questions keep coming. Let your questions keep coming, and share what tips working for you, what you do at home when you're working. That's like, yeah, that gets you get going, that motivates you, that makes you more productive. Please share your tips. So that said, with that said, let's bring our guest of the show today. Um, Today's guest is Todd Fine. Um, and I'll talk more in there. Let's start. Let's bring our guest in.
Hey, Mahesh.
Hey, Todd. Good morning. How are you?
I am good. It's Friday.
Yeah, it is Friday. Welcome to the show. I like your background. Looks awesome. What's there? You want a little bit tell us about yourself and your background?
How far you want me to go back?
Well, first I want to I want to actually, obviously, listen, when I start my programming, Win Intellect been there forever.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like one of the oldest training companies. I was working, I started my career as a programmer, and I would read the books from Jeffrey Richer and your team, and who started and founded the company, even Jeff Prosize. He came to India and all that. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about the company, and then you're about your background and what you do. And I know you're also a Microsoft regional director. That's how I met you first time. You're also president of Win Intellect. So maybe tell our viewers that who you are and what your company is, what you do, and then I'll ask more questions from there.
Yeah, let me start with the company because
Yeah.
you're right. It is a really interesting company. Wintellect was founded in 2000 by three guys. If you're developers, you'll probably know them: Jeffrey Richter, John Robbins, and Jeff Prosize. And they all worked with Microsoft teams specifically. Jeffrey Richter actually helped build the Microsoft CLR, back in the day. He's actually working with Microsoft right now under like Scott Guthrie's and Jason Zander's teams, building some of the core infrastructure of it. John Robbins, if you know him, he was the Bug Slayer columnist, one of the top, system level debugging people literally in the world. And they were all friends and technologists and speakers and conference keynoters, and they were all independent. And one day in 1999, they got together and said, let's form a company around the brand that we already have. I mean, just between those three people, Mahesh, they have written, I think, 17 or 18 books, some of the top programming books out there, like CLR via C Sharp. So they had this brand personally, and then they created a company around it. And you're right, they started out as a training company, just very hardcore training on the Microsoft technology platform. And from 2000 onward, from day one, they became, it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but they became Microsoft's #1 trainer worldwide for Microsoft Developer Division, meaning, as you said, they were all over India and, Hyderabad and Delhi and Bangalore and everything, and Shanghai and Microsoft Paris and Microsoft Latvia. We were in that office once, all doing training and multi-million-dollar contracts every year for Microsoft, training Microsoft devs and testers around the world. And the way I came into it was they were always asked, because they're like known as the people who wrote the book on the architecture of Microsoft, they were always asked to build stuff. But they were really much more trainers and content developers. So they brought me in at the end of 2005 to start up the consulting division. And within a couple of years, that was the bigger part of the company. And since then, consulting, which is application development, app dev stuff, and of course now Azure, is about 3/4 of the company revenue wise. So now we say we are a training and consulting company. And, there's been lots of recognition. There's the books. There's, if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, you'll know like we're a gold partner in everything, DevOps and app dev and Azure and this and that. And we have advanced specializations. And I think in 2018, we won the IMCP the Worldwide Microsoft Channel Partner of the Year. Last year we won the Microsoft US Award for Intelligent Cloud. So, we're a small company, but we're kind of small and very kind of high tech, and that's the brand. And then you and I, both know each other through the regional director program. We have lots of Microsoft MVPs and DevOps, ALM DevOps Rangers, and you and me, Microsoft RDs and that kind of a thing. So that's the company. It's really fun to be a part of. I don't like being part of large companies. I have once, and it has its perks, but I like kind of a small, more family-oriented company. So that's our brand.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I think. I've read more. In the beginning, I've read a lot of books, right? Even recently, until like 5 years back, all these books. The top programming books on Windows came from WinIntellect in your group, right?
Yeah.
So
and
I think.
Yeah. And if they didn't, we were working with the people who wrote the other books, like Charles Petzold. If for the older people that know him, they all worked with us or for us, and they wrote their own book. So, it's a pretty fun group to be a part of.
Yeah. And I think some people joining us. Welcome to the show. Looks like we have more people join us. I see people from US. I see Canada. Yeah, welcome back. Deepak again, welcome to the show. We have people from India, Philippines. Jin, welcome to the show. Sonu, Deepak, Shashank, Carl, Atul, Sean. Sean is local Philadelphia guys here. Hey, welcome to the show. I see a lot of familiar faces here. Today in Growth Mindset show, we are talking about how to stay motivated and productive while working from home. We have a guest today, Todd Fine. Todd is president of WinIntellect. He's also Microsoft regional director. We are just asking, and he's going to share his, I would say, 30 years of experience. Feel free to ask any questions. Todd is a great community guy. He's always ready to help us, and that's what we are here, right? We're trying to help. So, point here is this show is for you. Any kind of questions you have, we can help. Feel free to post your questions here. So Todd, you were talking about, now tell me a little more about Microsoft regional director program and MVP program, because many of our guys, they always ask, oh, how do I become Microsoft MVP? Oh, what does Microsoft regional director do? What are their roles? So if you want to, help us on that a little bit.
Well, I can talk more about. I'm one of those regional directors who's not also an MVP. I think you probably are, but we have a large number of MVPs at the company. The MVPs, I'm sure a lot of your viewers know, are like, advocates of Microsoft within the developer community and engineering community, right? They blog, they're doing user groups all the time, that kind of thing. And the way you get in with them is you have to make contacts within the Microsoft local community, find out who the MVP lead is, in your city or your region. And then you have to be very active in the community and doing user groups and articles and all kinds of things like that. And it's not that hard to get into that, but you do have to do a lot of community work, just like you're doing here, Mahesh. Yeah. Now, the RD program, people ask me about that too. And to give you a sense of the scale, for the MVP program, Mahesh, I know there's thousands, 3,000 or 6,000 around the world.
Yeah, about 4,600 at one point. They were 4,600. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So that's good. I was right in the middle of the average. So the RD program has about 120 or 140 people total worldwide. So
in the world. Yeah, that's
in the world.
So there's only 120, 130 about RDs in the world. So that's a kind of very, very special group.
Yeah, and the way people describe it differently, but I'll just tell you how I describe it compared to the MVPs. The MVPs are people in the technical and developer community, evangelizing and, supporting and advocating, speaking, writing, user groups around Microsoft Plat. The RDs, the way I describe it, is like MVPs, but at an executive level. We certainly do stuff like you're doing here. We do, user groups and things like that, but mostly we work on kind of one level up. So we're working, you'll see RDs, for instance, especially international RDs, on government panels on data privacy and stuff, in Sweden, or talking to EU parliament groups and stuff like that. You'll see them, which is what I do, because I don't do any of that. I haven't been at the Capitol or anything, doing anything like that. You'll see us working with Microsoft at a corporate level, or like I'll work with marketing groups. Here's a couple of examples. I worked with Microsoft Research for some years, putting together programs to win the hearts and minds of data scientists around universities and professors and things like that for Microsoft Azure platform, because obviously data and AI is a huge thing. So we put together a program called a training program called Azure for Research that we went around to universities in Europe and the US and gave workshops. We work with marketing groups. So we'll put together these initiatives at the corporate and marketing level or other things, rather than just say, hey, we're doing technical user groups around our local city. And then you'll do government programs and you'll do stuff like that. So again, I call it MVPs, but at a CXO level. That's just my particular description.
Yeah, and I believe there are also, I was also, RD. So one of the other thing is criteria is I know some of, older MVPs, they always ask, hey, I want to become an MVP. I want to become an RD, right? So I think one of the requirement for or criteria for RD is also that you have to kind of have experience working with multiple technologies, not just Microsoft, right? You can, if it's better, kind of.
Yeah, there's like 6 criteria. You don't necessarily have to meet them all. One of them is experience in working with, just as you said, non-Microsoft technologies. It could be AWS, it could be something with big data, it could be Google. They want you kind of multi-experience. So when you're going on and you're talking about things to customers or government groups or whoever, that you can talk with knowledge of the ecosystem, other ecosystems around you. So you're absolutely right. That's another criteria. Now, about getting in, because that was your original question, every year there is a cycle of renewal for RDs, and you can get nominated by a Microsoft person or another RD. So the way to try to see if you can get in is to find out who the RDs that you might know are, or just go online and look up lists or something like that, and then make contacts and show your stuff and see if you can get nominated. And then there's a formal process for that. But it's not just you apply online or call somebody on the phone. You have to get nominated by a Microsoft person or another RD.
Yeah, and you definitely have to have a community presence, big community presence. You have to have leadership skills. You have to have good writing and speaking skills, because you are presenting in a part of a group which is elite, right? All these guys. I see most of RDs, they run their own companies. A majority of them, I think, I would say, run their own companies or work for a large corporation. So they have good experience. So yeah, if you are a young person, RD is probably not good for you. It's very, it's definitely for experienced people.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So Todd, let's move to our next topic. I believe you are in Atlanta.
I'm in Atlanta. Yeah.
So how are things there during this pandemic? Like, and what are you? I know everybody's working from home. What do you do personally to, wake up every day, get yourself motivated, and you're like, what, I'm going to be productive today. And that.
Well, in Georgia, we've done pretty well compared to most of the U.S. Until maybe very recently in the last few weeks. In the last few weeks, the hospitals have filled up, just like you see. You can go online and you'll see almost every hospital is called like a diversion hospital, meaning don't come here unless, they'll divert you to other hospitals outside the Atlanta area. It's certainly not even close to being one of the worst states, but it's ramping up a little. But we've gotten off fairly easy so far. I don't really know why. It seems almost randomly it hits different states or different population centers at one time. In terms of working from home, one of the great things about WinElect is our entire company has always been built on remote work. So we have a formal office. It's actually a pretty nice office at the perimeter, but I would go in there twice a week. That's all I would do. So the company was built from the start where everybody worked from home, unless you had to go into a customer site, which some customers you had to, and everybody worked from home normally, and all the work done for customers was 90%. Well, let's say 80% remote, which has gone, of course, now to 100% remote. The only change that's been even slightly noticeable in terms of how we operate is in training, because 95% of our training was we call ILT, instructor-led training, in person at customer sites. And luckily, in about the year and a half before the pandemic, we began to change and take advantage of all the virtual technology and had started delivering even our training more and more virtually. Not much, but we kind of use GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar and all these tools, and just started to experiment with it and started doing it. So when the pandemic hit and nobody was going to do training in person, we had luckily, just by chance, converted gotten the experience in training. So instructor-led training went virtual, but we already knew how to do it.
Yeah.
So the impact, interestingly enough, to us and how we work was I would say it's almost zero. We were built that way from 20 years ago. So it wasn't much of a transition for us in that sense.
I see a lot of IT companies, whoever had at least some kind of, remote work, they just, expanded on that. And, I see companies like, local companies here in Philadelphia, Comcast, and big company IBX and IBC, and banks and they're like, everybody's saying now, hey, they're shipping you laptop, they're giving you all the stuff you need. Here is $700 for your supplies. Just work from home.
Yeah, we did do a lot of prep for it, which I can talk about in a minute, but it was really interesting. I don't know if you participated, Mahesh, but we did a lot of community things when this first hit, because I do have friends that own their companies that went out of business or that cut. I mean, one CEO I was talking to said, we've lost 50% of our customers and I'm laying off 50% of our staff next week, because they didn't know how to work remotely. They just weren't set up to do that,
Yeah.
And it's very much dependent on your customer list. So to give an example, 80% of their customers were airlines. And if you remember what happened when the pandemic hit, that just ended. Another had 75+% of their customer base was retail, like Macy's. So you know what happened with them. So we thought the same thing was going to happen to us, and I can talk about that if you want, of what we did to prepare for it. But there's a randomness aspect to how it affected people, and there is how are you set up for this new remote world aspect, which we, again, were like that from the beginning. So we had no transition, but others had a really hard time because they just weren't set up to work remotely. They just didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. So we have some questions coming up. We'll take one question because it's related to what we're talking right now, but we'll take more questions in the second half. I think Deepak Kaushik has a question. Simon, you want to put up the question? Yeah, I think he wants to, he's asking this question, if you have to be MCT to become a trainer. I think he's more focusing on trainer for software developers, or join your team, or, become a trainer for a company.
Yeah, now I can give you a really long, interesting answer, or I'm trying to decide if I should just give you a shorter answer because.
No, we have time, so you feel free to, because maybe you want to be in the middle.
Okay, so one interesting thing about us is until 2 years ago, so first 18 years of our existence, we did not do any official Microsoft curriculum training, which we used to call MOC, Microsoft Official Curriculum. So if you had you wanted to get a certification in, something, we didn't do any of that. All of our training was proprietary content. It's from the guys who wrote those books, and it still is better than anything out there. So not one person in all those 18 years, maybe one or two that we didn't even know about, had their MCT. Didn't have to be an MCT if you're not teaching Microsoft's official curriculum courses. Every couple years, Microsoft whatever the Microsoft Learning Group was called, because now it's called MS Learn, but it was called something else. It was called something else. It used to
Yeah.
be called EEG, the Engineering Excellence Group. They would
Yeah.
say, blah, 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 why aren't you a learning partner? Because you're everything else. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm happy to be a learning partner, but you're making everybody become MCTs. And we're already the best instructors out there, which you acknowledge. And we teach you guys. And they're like, oh, you have to be an MCT to get in the program. We'd be like, well, not really interested. But 2 years ago, we decided that we would finally join up, and we became like a Microsoft Silver or Gold learning partner. And we started to have everybody get MCTs. So that's, and we are a learning partner right now, a managed Microsoft learning partner. And we are now finally doing Microsoft certs and things like that. So that was the long answer. The much shorter answer is, if you're teaching just content that's not Microsoft official, like Microsoft's official certification courses, you don't have to be an MCT. If you're teaching those courses, Microsoft requires you, in most cases, to be an MCT, which is not that hard to do, but they require it. So you kind of decide, what are you teaching? What do you want? What do you want to do? And then you can decide if you want to be an MCT.
Yeah, so as long as you have your customers, you can find work, that's fine. But I believe if you have MCT, I'm sure some companies would prefer that. It's kind of, it becomes your credentials. Like, okay, so you did some work. If they know you already and they're your existing client, I guess you don't need MCT to be a.
No, I totally agree. If you're going to be building up your business, or you want to get into that field, the first thing I would do is get certified in that field. And if it's training, I would absolutely get an MCT. I was more talking about officially, what do you have to have? Well, you have to have an MCT to teach those courses. But if that's what you want to be, which is a great career field, I mean, we have dozens of them that work for me right now, I would absolutely get your MCT.
Yeah. So welcome to the show. I see more people have joined us. We have some questions coming up in the show. Today in the growth mindset, we have guest Todd Fine. He's a president of Win Intellect. Win Intellect is a more, it's like a training slash software consulting firm. And I believe you also hire people. You hire software developers. You hire senior leaders. I mean, senior architects and other positions. We will talk that also in second half. We will also take some of your questions, and we're going to ask more questions. What Todd can help us young guys, in the growth side. So stay back, and we'll be back, and we're going to take like a 2-minute break, and then we'll be right back.
Here at Mindcracker, we create artificial, virtual, and mixed reality games and apps, voice-enabled skills and apps, and intelligent apps, and integrate AI with IoT products. We offer advisory services for innovations and startups. We provide cloud and code security and performance services. We also offer AI/ML blockchain development, consulting, and training. Just visit www.mindcracker.us to make your dreams into a reality. COVID makes us feel like this, and work from home like this. But what if work looked like this? With a leader like this, and a payday that feels like this. Learn how to change your mind and your mindset with the Growth Mindset Show every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern.
All right. Welcome back to the show. We have today's Todd here with us, and we are taking your questions. So, Todd, a little about this mindset. So, this show is more about, you know, not only just learning and asking questions from experts, but more about how do we as a software developers change our mind. And I've been in software development for my, whatever, 25 years. And I remember when I start coding, I'm writing code, and, we start building these applications and our head start growing, right? We start thinking like, whoa, we are the guys, we are changing the world and we are doing this. And some of us becomes arrogant, as in that's where really, you talk to this developer and he's in his own world, and so our focus has been on the show is, sure, you are a software developer, sure, you're building a product, sure, you are helping on all that. You still can be a good, nice person. You can have good communication skills. You can have good speaking skills. You can present. You can write, and you can also grow in other parts of your professional life as well. Like you can lead people. So um, based on obviously you are very experienced, you've been in industry for a while. Do you mind sharing with us some of the things like you learned mistakes you made, and how did you overcome? And some of the people who are watching, they're young, they're starting their career, have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years experience. What would you advise them so they can grow in their life?
Wow, that's a large question. We need
And we have 25 minutes, so
we
we have
need
to go.
hours for that. If you want me to go over all
No, just yeah.
there's so many. I mean, I'm somebody who always likes to learn everything. I mean, I actually study every night, just different courses and things just for fun. But I'll try to pick and choose a couple. I was a developer like most of us were on this channel, and loved developing. But I always also wanted to expand and looked up to other people. So I looked up like the people at Winelect. I didn't know they were Winelect. I just knew their names, like Jeffrey Richter. Or I would see people speaking or doing something like you're doing now, and I'd be like, wow, I wish I could do that. I don't know how to write a book, or I've never spoken in front of an audience, or I'm a developer, but I'd like to project manage or lead. I would look up to people like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, and they were very technically smart, but they were business smart too. So I really just wanted to do that, just as a passion type of thing, not just as like I want to make money type of thing. So I focused on it. I focused on the development and I wanted to be the top 5 or 10% of developers, and I got very good at it. And I got my MBA, my business, master's degree in business, years back, because, I thought if you have technical expertise and business expertise, that's just gold. I mean, that's the two completely different sides of the coin. And, an MBA it's like anything with college, right? It's kind of background learning. You don't get your degree and go, I'm smart at this. You just have background knowledge, but it's good background knowledge. You're learning about the whole business and people side and organizational side and leadership side. So I did that, and that was really fun. This is 25 years ago, Mahesh, 30 years ago. So I wanted to learn the business stuff, and then I wanted to be able to speak in front of crowds. So I did, a lot of what we're talking about here. I started speaking at user groups, and I was terrified at the beginning, just absolutely. It was horrible. But I got really good, so good to the point that I went with some other people you might know. 3 of us went to Malaysia for Tech Ed Southeast Asia in 2009. There was 120 speakers over the week. And I'm not making this up. The 3 of us got, in the ratings that came, they posted it at the end of the speaker ratings. We got 1, 2, and 3 at 120. And, you get very good at it. So I would say, work to expand the areas that you don't do right now, as long as you enjoy them. Write articles. You'll learn a ton from that. You'll meet people from that. Speak, just like you're doing now, Mahesh. Speak at user groups. Look for other opportunities. That's a really hard and completely different skill than being a developer. Explaining how you're writing code or solving a problem in a way that people understand is completely different than actually doing it, in your room. And you will meet more people, and you will have more experiences. If you're interested in the business side, or the leadership side, get your Scrum Master certification, which I did just for fun. I've never done a Scrum Master work, but I have people work with me that are project managers, so I wanted to know what they're talking about. So I got my Scrum Master cert. Get your PMO cert. Whatever areas you're interested in, get experience in them, And I'm not saying that like to pass your test. I'm saying you will have new experiences. You'll grow personally. You'll grow professionally. You'll make a lot of contacts in different groups of people you haven't. I mean, talk to Mahesh and say, I have, stuff to share. Can I be on this, show sometime? And then practice your butt off. So you can come off, well. So all of those things, are things that I did. The stories about mistakes are really much more fun. So stop me anytime, but I'll tell you some of maybe a mistake or two.
I'm picking up some things. I'm going to ask you more because there's a lot of things coming in this topic. This is really gold. This right here is the gold. Everybody who's watching the show, this is the gold you grow in life. This is what changes your life is learning and
It really is.
challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the first time. So this is not one of the fun learning stories, but I'll just tell it anyway. It's very short. But I thought I was pretty hot, pretty good speaker. By the time I was at Winelect, I was an RD by that time, so I was going in front of people. And I can't remember where I was, some company, and I had to give a talk. I scheduled to give a talk, and now I'm part of Winelect. And Jeffrey Richter was also speaking because we were both at Winelect, but I went first. And so my boss, really, he was the owner of Winelect. I wasn't an owner at that point. He's in the audience, and it's Jeffrey Richter. He's one of the best speakers in the world. So I was a little nervous, but I'm like, I did pretty good. I gave my speech. Afterwards, just like, I said to Jeff, so what do you think? He's like, yeah, looked like you kind of winged it. I was like, so that was a learning experience. That was just a funny story, but I'll tell you a big learning experience. Before I came to Winelect, the reason I got in at Winelect was I was a developer and a project manager at a company called RDA, based out of Maryland, and I moved to Atlanta in 1998 to open the Southeast office. So picked out the carpets, grew it to 40 people. So I was, I guess we call it managing director. And now that was, I had leadership a little bit being an enterprise project manager. So I was leading kind of technical teams, and I learned a lot from that. I won't go into that, but now I'm running an office, and I'm the managing director, and I'm hiring recruiters and salespeople and, tons of technical people. And, it's a real executive position for the first time. And I had my MBA. So I kind of, trying to take all those practices I had, and I'm trying to model myself on what I saw my boss doing. He was the owner of that company and was just a great guy. And that was a mistake for a couple reasons. One is you should take lessons from people, take lessons from Mahesh, take lessons from me, take lessons from anybody you're working with. But you have to be yourself. If you're not yourself and you're trying to be like other people, it's not genuine and you'll screw up. So part of my problem, which I didn't realize, was I was trying to act like somebody else acted. The other problem was I was trying to do what I thought books had told me to do. Like, here's how you have to be a leader. You have to, you have to demand the most from people, right? You have to, push. There's just little phrases. It's not like I wrote them down and tried to follow them, but it was in my head, and it was quite successful. And every time anybody would quit, we had a very formalized process. We would do an exit interview. So I would do that interview because I was, running the office. And I remember one year, probably my first year or second year, I had 2 exit interviews, and they were fine, but people weren't unhappy or disgruntled, right? But they left, and I was kind of surprised. A great place to work. And the second person, at the end, he said something along the lines of, hey, Todd, I just want to say I really enjoyed working here. I like working, here. I like working, with you. He said, you're a very fair person, but it's not enjoyable working for you. And I was just devastated.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're fair. I trust you. I like you personally, but it's just not an enjoyable place to work. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him about it. And what I realized was I was trying to be my old boss, who was a great guy, but very demanding, boom, 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 which is not me at all. I like to bring people along through positivism, which I get criticized for, by the way, sometimes. You're too nice. You're too this.
Yeah.
There's not enough of a wall between you, Todd, and your employees, which is what business courses will teach you. You're the leader. There's got to be a wall. You can't really be anybody's friend. You know, they'll say that. So I was trying to follow that, but that's not me. And I changed in an instant. And now there's so many people that will say, you're the best boss I ever worked for.
So this is great. Now this is working out. Yeah.
No, I'm not saying, now just to be clear, I'm now not saying don't try to be like me. Try to be yourself and take the lessons and everything you've learned and make it your own, which is what I did. I still sometimes get criticized, you know, even now, saying you need to have more of a wall up. You know, you're being too nice. You know, if you'd been more demanding or more decisive, you know, this wouldn't have gone on for 3 or 6 more months. I'm like, I totally agree, but I'm okay with it.
That's not me.
Yeah. So those are the kind of things that you learn over time. At least those are the lessons I took. There's many, many more mistakes I've made over time. As I've gotten older, I'm sure you're the same. You just get more relaxed. You know, you just kind of let things roll off your back a little more, which just to me is a huge thing. When you're younger, especially, at least for me, if there's something to do, it's like, you know, let's attack this and attack it now, and we've got to solve this. Or this person is not doing the right thing. Let's talk with him right now. And now it's just much easier for me to not get so upset and to just kind of take it as it comes. And we'll deal with it, but we'll deal with it over time unless it's something that really has to be dealt with immediately. And that works for me. And that's just changed the environment and the culture completely. Over years, it's taken me to kind of come to this, but those are just kind of things that I would say that pop in my mind when you ask me about mistakes you've made. There's many others, but I don't want to go on too long, or then your listeners will stop listening to me completely. So.
No, definitely no. This is good learning. So I learned, you know, there are a few things I definitely agree with. That is, the learning is key, making mistake is key. And I'm reading this. I'm almost finished this book called Growth Mindset. And this is Carol is the one who came up with the term growth mindset. And in growth mindset, that's how we started the show. Is growth mindset is all about growing your mind, and mind means the you know, neurons in your brain, they only grow when you start challenging yourself. So if anybody who's listening, if you know, you're growing as a child up to 17 years, your brain is growing. It grows, you know, by the time you're 6 or 8 years old, your brain is almost complete as an adult. But after a certain age, let's say 30, stop growing, and then 40 and 50 start slowing down neurons. The way you grow them is by challenging yourself, by learning new things, and by doing things you don't want to do. And that's really this growth mindset is all about. If you want to grow in life, you have to do things, especially learning, make mistakes. And then other thing you said is, you know, Einstein said it right. Einstein said it right that you go to college or get a degree not because of learning, but you're kind of training your mind to how to be disciplined. So at a certain point, you have to be disciplined to get the things done. And then you also had definitely follow what you love to do rather than following others. And I just came up with a quote other day, and it's my original, by the way. I'm proud of it. It says that if you follow others' path, you will never reach your own destination.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you something, because I just wrote an article a couple months ago. You might have seen it for Microsoft, a little blog post. It's on the Winelec site if you want to look at it. But this is kind of related. But it was, the topic was, what is the definition of a professional, right? Because what we're talking about is how to grow your career and what you want to be. And if you go to the winelec.com website, go to blogs and search for me, you'll see it come right up. And I'm going to bring this up because it stuck with me. It's another lesson, Mahesh, years and years ago. So I have to give you a little background. I have a lot of kind of adventure hobbies. And one of the things I do is I'm a pilot. So, I got my license when I was 22 in college many years ago, and I'm actually a certified flight instructor. And when you become a flight instructor, you actually have an entire course on what it means to be a professional and how to teach, right? Which is good for training. It's how to, because you're an instructor. How do you teach people? How do you deal with the different kinds of students you have? People learn differently. But I'm going to read this to you. It's right on the blog, my blog. On the
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Simon is finding the link too. Yep, he's going. Yep, go ahead.
It says, and again, this is literally the definition of professional for a flight instructor. But it didn't say to be a flight instructor. It said, what's the definition of being a professional in your field? And I have a few bullets there, and I'm just going to read them. Uses good judgment. Extended training in his or her field. We hire people all the time, Mahesh, and when they only understand things at the surface, it's an automatic no hire.
No.
So they will say, I had so many people interview when we'll talk to them, and they say this as if it's a good thing. They're meaning it's a good thing. They're like, I learn really fast, so we'll ask them things, and they won't know. And we'll say, well, I learned enough to do the job I have to do for that particular project. I learn exactly enough to do that particular job. They're not learning deep. They're just learning at the surface. So if you're a professional, do you want to go to a doctor who just knows stuff at the surface, but he didn't bother to learn all these other things? He's going to mess up. He's going to make a wrong diagnosis. So 3, uses reason and logic. 4, has a code of ethics. 5, studies, researches, and keeps up to date with his or her field, which I just talked about. 6, provides a service. So there's a couple other quotes in there. Aviation instructors should be constantly alert for ways to improve the services they provide, their effectiveness, and their qualifications. So it's literally cut and pasted from my flight instructor book of what it means to be a professional. And I read that a long time ago, and it always made an impression for me, because what does the word professional mean? There's lots of definitions, right? And we just kind of use it all the time. Yeah, I'm a professional. I'm a professional developer. Well, a lot of times all that people mean by that is I make money that way.
I work for a company. Yeah, that's what I mean. I work for a company.
Yeah, that's not what professional means in the context you and I are talking about. So I would urge you guys, you don't have to read my blog article, but just take a look at those bullets, because that's how I started. When I read that, that's how I started to think about myself. That's completely true. I need to be doing that to call myself professional, because before that, I just thought it means not being flip about it. I just thought it means, oh, I make money at whatever I'm doing. And that's not what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah, I think, Simon, we should also share this on our social media. This looks like definitely a good blog post. I did see that, by the way. So there's a few other things. That's great. Let's go on. I think there's a few other things before we have 8 more minutes. Obviously we respect the time here on the show. Let's take some questions. Simon, you want to take some questions from our viewers? I know we won't be able to cover most of them, but here's a question from Robbie. Can you read this, Todd?
Yeah.
Yep.
I still find publishing websites or apps, i.e. Xamarin, to Linux servers Go Play Store is still not as easy as it could be. So we actually have a big Xamarin practice. We always have a couple Xamarin things going on at one time, as we do now. And Xamarin's our preferred mobile development platform because it's cross-platform. But I'm not the person to ask about that. I do know that every time we have to publish something, it's an effort. It's an effort. You have to meet all these requirements. It's rejected. Then you have to meet them again. It's gotten, I was going to say it's gotten much better, but what I think has happened is our guys have gotten much more experienced in, overcoming all the obstacles. But unfortunately, I'm not an expert on that. I did want to just bring up one thing, just in case you wanted to go there, Mahesh, which is we didn't really talk about the COVID pandemic, stuff. So I'm okay with just answering questions, but I just kind of realized we never hit that topic about like how we.
Well, no, go ahead. Let's spend a couple of minutes on that. After they take one more question, and if you have time, we can, extend 5 extra minutes. That's not a problem. There's one more question. Let's take that. So we try to, mix things up. Yeah, there's another question. I think this talking about work from home. Is it good for a company to have work from home for I guess forever, or what's the impact do you see?
So I might not be the right person to ask because we've always done work from home our entire history, even before I came here. And it's one of the things that I loved about Winelec. Before I took the job, I'm like, all right, we'll get to work from home, because in my previous job for quite a while, I had to go in every single day to the office. And in the early days, we had to wear a suit. I had a little plaque on the side of the door, like you do, like in the old days. If you're a young guy, that's how it used to be. When we had a customer at, oh gosh, it wasn't UPS, was it? Anyway, everybody had to wear a sport coat. You could only take it off when you sat in your cube, that kind of a thing. So
Okay.
I think I don't want to say that's the way it should be, because different people are different. We have people at the company, one in particular, who doesn't like working at home. I heard you talking about at the beginning of the show. They just like to be around people. I'll give you a great example from my company. Jeffrey Richter, one of the founders. We all worked from home, and increasingly he started to say, I'm just lonely. I want to be around teams and people. And he went to work for a Microsoft team where he goes into work, well, before the pandemic, every day, and has an office, and he loves that. So there's no one right answer. So when you say, is it good? I would say it's awesome for me, and every single person except one at Winelec loves the fact that they work from home. And if they ever had to go in the office every day, they'd quit. So it's not is it good or not? I don't think I know. It's a completely viable, wonderful way to work, as long as you have employees that, as you said, have a mindset that they like that. For me and everybody that works here, working from home means people working harder, because there's nothing to stop you to make you go home at the end of the day. You'll stay up till 1 a.m. I do it every night. But if you have the wrong person that doesn't like it, they might be hard to focus, and they might not like it, or you might have trouble getting to work. I can tell you we've never, ever had that problem, because we hire people that love development and love code. And if you sit them at home, they'll just keep on working forever. So I love it.
Yeah, I think right hiring is important, and it's the mindset. Even I'm going to tell everybody who's watching this show: if you are working for a company and you are finding an excuse not to do the work and not to work hard, actually you are harming yourself, because you are building this habit. It's gonna become your habit for life rather than that company, because habits are not just for one company or other. So if you push yourself to work and do the work even though you don't like, you're telling your brain and training your mind. That's what it is all about. Yeah, let's talk about the COVID thing. And then I have a few other questions. I want to talk about your Win Intellect now. What's going on there? What you're doing there? Maybe our audience want to check it out. And if you are hiring anybody, what kind of people you look for? Those are a couple of topics I had.
For the pandemic, so just to kind of, start with the conclusion, it's ended up being a great year for us. We've grown. We've actually hired 5 or 6 people over the year. But when it hit, we literally thought we're going to go out of business. I mean, because if you remember that March, April timeframe,
It was bad, yeah.
I mean, we were making money, but it wasn't one of those great quarters at the time. It was just like, yeah, we're going to make a little money. And if things went bad, I did talk to, as I said, multiple friends who were on the verge of going out of business at the time, and it was all panic mode. So we went into a big effort to prepare, and we actually did have 2 customers. One paused a $600K SOW, meaning we were about to sign, and they said, "Well, we just got to wait." So it wasn't canceled. It was just all of a sudden we had a bunch of people ready to work and get started like a week later, and that was on pause. And at the same time, one of our customers, who is retail, their entire business is retail, they were terrified, and they called up and they said, we are asking every vendor for a 20-25% rate cut. We don't know what's going to happen. Our customers are canceling our contracts one after the other using force majeure, which means force of nature. And that was their whole business. So those happened within 2 weeks of each other, and everybody was in panic mode. And we literally thought, this is it. So what did we do to prepare? Well, and I'm not sure how helpful this is. First is financial. That's the number one. So we put a whole bunch of financial plans in place. We got lines of credit. We already had lines of credits, but they were zero balance. We didn't use any of it.
Yeah.
Had them always for all these years, just in case. Well, we maxed them out to $500,000. We just took all the money out, put it in the bank. in case we needed it. We never spent $1, by the way. But
Yep.
the way banks work, if you want to get into business, is you have all these loans available to you until you need it. The minute you need it, they look at you and go, oh, you're in financial trouble, you need a loan, and they won't give it to you. So you got to
Yep.
take it out before you need it. So we did all
That's
that.
a good learning. That's a good learning. Yep.
Yeah, those are banks for you. So we took all that money out, put it in the bank. We already had the remote learning piece down, but we really accelerated the training part. As I said, to make that virtual, we've just been experimenting, and we just went all virtual with that. We talked to all the people. This is kind of the people part of it, and had some conference calls, all hands meetings, and just let them know as leaders that, here's what we're facing, just dead honesty. We don't know, but this is what could happen. And we said we're going to do everything we can to support the people first. And that would have included, it never happened, if me and Jeff had to literally just take no salary for a while.
That's great. That's great.
So we just kind of let them know we're on your side. We can't promise anything, but we're not going to be the unfeeling, corporate management. And then we did community nurture. I think you might have participated in some of these, like me and Adam, if you know Adam Kogan, another RD. We did RDs in pain community thing where we did 2 or 3 of those. There's another one coming up soon where we just shared just what you and I are doing. How are you handling? What are you doing? What steps are you taking so I can learn from you? So we nurtured the community. And then we also kept people busy. So if they weren't on a project, we doubled down on all their objectives and expanding their learning, because people that are busy and that are doing things and, in code and dev and getting objectives and bonuses, they're happy. If they're sitting around thinking, doing this, you have trouble. So those are the 5 things that we did. It turned out that we had a little bit of a lull, and then it really took off again because we could already do everything remote. So we actually had an advantage over the other vendors that couldn't deliver training virtually or that had to be on site. I'm trying to think, if you're like Avanade and you have 30 or 50 people at Delta down in Atlanta on site, which they did, and all of a sudden you can't be on site, you have a problem. But if you're Intellect and that's how you work, you don't. So all that kind of worked.
Yeah. No, that's great. Looks like that's great. The things work out. And I see more and more companies are adapting, and I don't see much impact. It was, you said, for 3 months, 6 months, 4 months, there was a panic because all work was stopped. Like we had SOW, they was ready to sign, as you said. They're like, no, they actually stopped the whole new projects for year 2020. It's because they were just more in like wait and see mode. You don't know what's going to happen. But looks like things like business wise, especially on the IT, it didn't impact a lot. So we have one more question. So let's take this one more question. It's kind of good. I think everybody should learn from this. Is from Atul. Simon, you want to put up this question here? And this is kind of good for you. Already kind of covered this. But how do you keep up with new technology? Because there's so much coming every day. It literally. And I also find myself sometimes like my head wants to blow up because I'm learning so much and there's still not enough time. So how do you keep up with that?
Yeah, I have a really bad answer. I don't think people will like. If you remember that definition of professional saying, always keep up with advances in your field, that's really difficult. It's probably more challenging in our field than any other because the technology changes come so fast and furious. I don't care what it is. If you're Angular, it's going to be your next version of Angular, and then it's going to be React, and it's going to be Vue, then it's going to be the next slide. It's just whatever it is. So what we do for people is we give them objectives every year, paid objectives, $1,000, $3,000, get your cert in this, get your whatever you're doing, learn. But the real question is, well, how do you do that? And our answer is not one you're going to like. It's going to, because the answer is you do it in your off hours. I mean, I stay up every night. I like to work. So on the weekends, if there's something cool, I'm not saying I work 8 hours a day on a Saturday, but I play around all the time and I have to do it off hours. Now we get complaints sometimes saying you want us to learn all this stuff, but you won't pay us to do it. And by that, they mean just have me on the bench and take a week or a month and let me learn this stuff. And I do have friends that are RDs that actually they do that for people. And so, I mean, I'm just telling you how we do it. And I'm impressed with that. And I'd be like, I'd like to work there. I think it's a great company. But their profits are also much slimmer than ours. So for us, we hire people that love to learn. They're going to do it even if I don't tell them to, but they have to do it. If they're on the bench, fine, right? They can just learn at their leisure. But if they're working for a year on a project, which most are, yeah, you got to do it on your off hours because you have to keep up. And when they say, I want to be paid for it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure you have a 6-figure base salary, and I expect some things from you, just base things as part of that. And one of those is keep up with the technology that you're supposed to be developing. So that's why I said it's not necessarily the nicest answer, but it's always worked out for us. We hire people that are going to do it anyway.
But I think people don't understand, if you're learning something, it's really more for you than the company, because you may leave tomorrow, right? There's no company's not going to say you're going to work with us 30 years, right? Learning is actually for themselves. That's what I see it.
That's the perfect answer, because what I tell them in their offer letter and when we have discussions in their annual review each year is all these objectives. If your SQL Server, learn Cosmos DB. If you're Angular, learn React. Whatever. It's expand whatever your area is, because, and this is exactly what I say. It's what you just said. I said this is really good for you at the company because you can be put on more and different projects. You're more available. But I say directly to them, it's also good for you in your career, because if you ever leave, and I don't want you to ever leave, but if you do, you have more abilities. And I actually say that to them. So what you said is the perfect answer. If you think of it as, I'm only going to do something my company makes me learn, well, you're not going to survive at WinElect anyway, because that's just not, who we hire. We hire people that if I have to try to prevent them from learning, because they're going to go off in the weekend and learn the newest, JavaScript library on their own anyway. But yeah, you gave a perfect answer. It's the same answer I give.
Yeah, great. So yeah, we are almost running out of time. I have 2 more questions for you. They are personal. So number 1, what do you miss the most during this pandemic? And what is the first thing you will go do once everybody gets shot and you are allowed to go out there and do anything you want?
I would guess I miss the travel. I like to travel. And that has all stopped. So, we usually take a vacation a year somewhere. We might go to the Caribbean or whatever. So the travel's really stopped. I miss going out to dinner all the time. I still very occasionally do. My wife works for the CDC in the United States.
Okay.
So she is hardcore.
She's busy. She's been busy a lot.
Yeah, she will not. She is, because it's all hands on deck. But she will not. She's hardcore. She won't go out anywhere. I can't see my parents who live in Florida. They're in their 80s. So I miss all that. So the first thing I will probably do is travel and go see my parents.
Okay, well, that's great. That's great. And we all wish to go see our loved ones, once start traveling. Well, that was a great show, Todd. I think we enjoy. I learn a lot from your experience, and hopefully our audience learn a lot. Anything else you want to say? Anything to this our user base here? In the end, that's you, and then we will conclude this.
Only that, my background is not as a software guy. My background is in electrical engineering and electrophysics and charged particle beams. Sorry. And I'm not trying to do this as a pep talk, but we work in an incredible field. It's fun. It's always changing. There's opportunity. I've always said, if you're a developer, you will always have the opportunity for a job, So we're in a great field, enjoy it, take advantage of it, and grow as much as you can and have a good time.
All right. Thank you so much, Todd, for coming here. I know it was short notice. It was literally yesterday. But thank you so much, and we would love to have you again in future. Anything else we can help you if you're launching a new program or hiring something, anything we can do, just let us know.
All right. Thanks, Mahesh.
And thank you all for watching us, and we will conclude the show. We'll see you next Friday, 10 a.m. again.